Opioids are powerful drugs. They can make a positive, life-changing difference for someone who's coping with chronic pain. But they can have equally terrible consequences when they are misused or abused. Illness, injury, and even death can result from the improper use of these medications. In fact, statistics show that deaths from prescription drug abuse have risen alarmingly in recent years, spurring the U.S. government to impose ever tighter regulations on their use. Sometimes the victim is the person for whom the drugs were prescribed. All too often, though, it's someone who was never intended to have access to them. Stricter regulations alone can't prevent accidental overdose or intentional abuse. That's why those of us who reap the greatest benefit from opioid drugs have the greatest responsibility for using our prescribed medications in a safe manner and making sure that no one else can use them.
We also don't want these pills to get in the wrong hands. What do I mean by the wrong hands? We don't want them to get into the hands of young children, and we don't want them to get them in the hands of someone else who may misuse these medications. So it's important that you protect these medications and use them only for you and no one else.
There are two ways that opioid medications can be misused. The first is accidental misuse. For example, you might misread the label on your medications or mistake one medication for a different one, or lose track of how much you've taken and end up taking more medication than you should. Accidents can also happen if you're careless with how you handle and store your medication. Leaving pills out where a child can find them is an obvious hazard. And storing your pills in unmarked containers or shared medicine tablets only makes it more likely that a family member will use them by mistake. The other type of misuse is intentional. That happens when someone else who has access to your drugs is using them or even selling them without your knowledge. Or even worse, they may be using or forging your prescriptions to illegally acquire the medications that were intended for you. Only you can ensure that you're using your medications safely and safeguarding them from misuse by others. It's easy, really, if you strictly observe a few simple rules. When you pick up your prescription at the pharmacy, check it carefully. Make sure you're getting the right drug in the right dose. Look to see that the dosing schedule is the same as the one you and your provider discussed. Mistakes at the pharmacy are rare, but they can happen. If you have questions, ask the pharmacist or call your prescriber before you take the medication. When you get your prescription home, store it in a safe place that only you have access to. Keep your medicine out of the reach of children or pets. Never leave loose pills out on a kitchen counter or a nightstand or a coffee table. Keep your medications in their original packaging until you are ready to take them. Don't transfer your medications to an unmarked container or an old prescription bottle or any container that could be mistaken for OTC medications. Make sure you take your medication only as directed. It's easy to get confused, especially when you first begin a new medication. Monitor yourself or ask a family member to help you keep track of the number of pills you take and when you take them. If you think your medication has not provided the relief you expected, resist the urge to take another dose. This could cause an accidental overdose, especially when you're new to a medication. Contact your healthcare provider for advice and guidance. And finally, never share your medication with someone else. This can be a hard rule to follow, especially if someone you care about is in pain. But remember that every body is different, and you cannot predict how someone will react to a medication. The same dose that offers you relief could put your loved one in great danger. Just don't risk it. Let's turn now to intentional abuse, which is often referred to as diversion. Diversion of opioid medications for illegal use has become a serious problem. A medication is considered diverted when it is stolen and used to get high or sold for illegal use, not used to treat a real pain problem. There are ways you can protect yourself from being a victim of diversion. One way is to think of it as if your medication supply were a large sum of money. You wouldn't advertise the fact that you had a lot of money in your pocket or purse or in your home. For the same reason, you shouldn't broadcast the fact that you possess and use opioid medications. Family and friends may need to know that, but it's nobody else's business. And frankly, the fewer people who know, the better, both for your safety and the safety of others. Another thing you can do to protect yourself is to store your medications in a secure location. Never leave them out where they're visible and accessible. A locked drawer or a lockbox are the best locations. And remember to do the same thing with any refill slips that include your name, your physician's name, and the prescription code number. Now, what should you do when you're not at home? Well, just as you only carry a small amount of cash with you and keep the rest in the bank, you should only carry the amount of medication you'll be needing while you're out of the house or traveling. It's best to keep the rest of your medications safe and sound at home. Careful use and storage of your medications keeps everyone safe, but so does thoughtful and proper disposal of unused medicines, packaging, and any paperwork that includes information about you or your prescription. The sad truth about today's world is that not even our trash is private, and your trash could be someone else's treasure, so you need to take precautions. Empty medication bottles and pharmacy bags both have printed labels that could be used to forge an order for refills. Those things, as well as any unused prescription orders, should be disposed of as carefully as credit card receipts and bank account information. Whether you cut up, shred, compact, burn, or bag them up with the leftovers is up to you. Equal care needs to be taken when you dispose of expired medications or leftover medicines you don't plan to use. If you've used other medications, you're probably familiar with the standard routine of mixing them with coffee grounds or kitty litter to make them unusable and prevent them from getting into the water supply. However, that method is not recommended for unused opioids. Rather, opioids should be flushed down the toilet or washed down a drain. This ensures that they won't be stolen or consumed by someone's pet after they reach the trash bin. If you have any questions about how to safely dispose of your leftover medications, ask your pharmacist or prescriber for advice. That's a lot to remember, so let's recap some rules for the safe and responsible use of opioids. Check your prescription at the pharmacy to be sure you're getting what was ordered. Keep your medication in a safe place, away from children and pets. Take your medication only as directed. Never share your medication with others. Guard your medication from theft by storing and carrying it with care. Dispose of it properly in the way your healthcare provider recommends. Opioid medications help many people have a fuller, more productive life. But to ensure that their benefits continue to outweigh their risks, to ourselves, the people we love, and to society, we all need to handle them with care and respect and good old-fashioned common sense. It's not hard, but it's important. And it's all part of taking charge of our treatment, our life, and our obligations as responsible users of prescription opioids.